Hey guys, this is the start of that case I showed you, the leather case like that. I'm making another one today, step by step, so hopefully it goes well. Alright, so first things first, you want to get some blank paper on one side and put it to your table, your workbench, whatever. You want it held flat with little wrinkles in between, so that way you can get some accurate measurements. This first is going to be your template, because with working with leather it's kind of expensive, so you want to make a template and kind of gauge out how it looks, how it feels, the size of it. So that's what you're going to do first. So since this case is for my Magic the Gathering set, I have here one of my cards that I'm going to use kind of as the starting point of what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to work off from there. So as you can see, the width of the playing card is kind of close to 2.5 inches, but I was comparing my old case to the card, and the leather is actually shorter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a full 3 inches, because then I have some gap on one side of it as well as the other side. So it gives me a little bit more room to play with. So I got my measurements. It's going to be 3 inches wide and 4 inches tall. That's about the dimensions of my playing cards. So I just drew a rectangle with my right angle on my pencil. So what I'm going to do is, this is going to be the front flap of it. As you can see here, it's going to be this part. So what I'm going to do is actually cut this all out of one piece of leather. So I'm going to draw the base now, which is more of a square and how to get the dimensions. Then I'm going to draw another 3x4. Another 3x4, so I get this back part and then the top, and then 2 3x4s on the sides. Alright, so your template is going to look kind of like this. As you can see, you have the base here, your sides, and then this is the actual top flap. I will break this down into about like 2/3, so I have a little bit of a lip right here to go over top of here. So next step is to cut this out as smoothly as possible. So I'm going to go do that, and then I'll show you how I attach my template onto the leather so I don't get it to slide around so I can get some accurate, measurements and cut it accurately so it's not too messed up. Alright, keep in mind that I made the diagram bigger than my card because the leather's thick, so when you're going to fold it up, it's going to stick in a little bit and it's going to shrink the size of the square down by a little bit. So hopefully by making it just this much bigger, it'll actually fit a little bit more looser. Alright, so the template's cut out. As you can see, it still is kind of rolling up, but don't worry about that, I'll fix it later. So next, we're going to take out the leather and glue this on top of the leather, and I will show you what I use and how I do that. Alright, so once again, I'm using that 8-ounce leather, I believe. It's 1/8 of an inch thick. So you want to start with the flesh side down. I believe, if I'm understanding correctly, the smoother side right here is the flesh side. You want that down because you want the grain side, because this is what's going to show. This is going to be what's inside. I'm using undyed leather, whether it's pig or cow. I don't really know, I don't really care. I hope it's cow just because I hate pigs in general, but I have all sorts of different reasons for that. You don't have to have undyed leather, but undyed leather obviously is the best for when you want to dye it. So I got this as a gift. I think it was around 50 bucks, but I'm not sure. As you can see, it's not perfectly square, and I've already cut out some stuff. So that's why you definitely take your template. So A, you don't waste too much space, and B, it's easier to work with. Alright, so I'm using Elmer's rubber cement to glue my template on, and as you can see, all that stuff's holding down what I've glued. The good thing about this is it's not too sticky, so when you peel off the template, it's not going to leave like chunks of paper still there. It's very light adhesive. But the bad news is the rubber cement still stays after it dries, and so that's all going to be on the inside of your case, which, don't worry, just grab like a sponge with kind of a scourery side and like scrub it, gently and then keep working up to vigorously to, get some of it off, and they'll be fine. Don't worry about that. So yeah, just glue your template down like this, and then once it's all the way glued and dried, then you can trace around it and then cut out the leather once you're done tracing it, which I'll show you here in a bit, and then you can get started on the next steps. Alrighty, so once you're done gluing your template on there and you trace around the sides to mark it on the leather, you just peel that paper away right over there, and kind of I had right over here, it was missing some, so I just redrew it. So now you're ready to cut it out. You need a X-Acto knife, like one of these, or a really good razor blade, one of the two, and you just cut along here using your ruler or whatever straight edge you want to use. Just cut it all the way out, and once that's done, I'll show you. Alrighty, so once you cut it all out, there it is, and there's more you got to do to it, but some quick tips real quick. The way I cut my leather is I use my right angle, that's my cutting guide tool, and I use this blade. The one thing I did is I brought it close to the edge with the right angle on top of it. So you can see that thickness right there. Then I took my blade and I put it right at that angle and just withdrew my blade till it barely got to the table. You can see right there. And that's the length I cut it at. It's not perfect. Ow, I just stabbed myself with a razor. It wasn't totally perfect, but the good thing about it is it cuts most of the way through the leather, and then you can just poke this through the rest and just draw it and have a straight edge, and it's a lot smoother and cleaner. So yeah, now that you have this cut out, what you want to do is right in here in the corners, I'm going to mark those and mark it down here, because that's where we're going to carve into to give it some room so we can fold it over without it bunching up and making it look horrible. And I'll show you that in a second. Alrighty, I don't know how well you can see the lines right here. So that's where I'm marking so I can start tooling. The tool I use is a right angle wood carver. You can use a swivel knife, or I guess any other tool to cut it. I prefer the right angle wood carver just because it gets in there nice and it starts tooling it. Alright, the next thing you want to do is wet the leather. That makes it easier to carve into. And you can never get it too wet, although I do suggest clamping it down first before you wet it, because if you wet it and then you start pulling and tugging on it, it will stretch, and you don't really want that because then it gets off even. So just wet it like I did here. I actually need to get a little bit more wet. You can use a sponge, or I just used a rag that I had. So you want to get it wet before you start tooling it. Alright, so I just tooled it. I can see that it has a divot in there. That helps it fold over and sit up at a nice angle. You can see how that folds kind of nicely. And how I did that, I just took my right angle as kind of a brace, and I made it a certain distance from where I was supposed to cut through, and then I took my tool and I just went through the line like that, using this as a backer so I don't accidentally go like that, or whatever. So I just did that, and I just went through there a couple times, and then I went back this way to get right there. Alright, so now I'm going to stamp my leather. First thing you really want to do is make sure it's nice and wet, because that'll help the stamp take easier. And then you're going to get your stamps. This is on a setter. Without the setter, it looks like that, and then it's on the setter. You're going to get that together, and then you're going to use a rubber mallet. You can use a regular hammer. I just prefer the rubber mallet. I wish I could actually show you as I'm stamping it, but all you really need to know is just make sure it's lined up however you want and hammer the heck out of that. Alright, I'm obviously still working on doing some stamping, but this is how I stamp. This is kind of my insignia, the 4 eagles. So, yeah, that's just how you do it, and you do it all over. If you want something over here, just wet it, stamp it. Same thing over here, over here. It's just that easy. Make sure you wet it though, and the wetter the better, so it takes the stamp shape better. And then just be careful with it, you know, just hold it there and hit it again and make sure it's not sliding over. As you can see, you know, here it kind of slid a couple times. Here it definitely slid a couple times, so just be careful. Alright, so to bevel the edges like this, all I did is I just wet it, and then I took my razor blade and I just got at that specific angle and I just drew it across. Although I do have it clamped to the edge of the table, which makes it 10 times easier to work with. So it's easier to just get that angle and just go across. So I do that to all these sides. I don't do it past here, just because this is the top, it doesn't matter. Alright, this is the chisel set. There's some more attachments right there. I'm using a medium 3-prong run, and so what we're gonna do is just, you know, set it right in there, as you can see, like right there, and then we're just gonna hammer it, and it'll go through, and we'll do that all the way up and all the way on this side, trying to match the holes as neatly as possible, and doing that on all the main 4 planes. Alright, now that it's all holy, the next thing I usually do is dye it and then stitch it. Alright, so my dyeing is done. On the main side, I dyed it a dark blue. It looks black in the video, but it's dark blue. And then I dyed this kind of a dark mahogany. The splotches, that is from me not clearing enough of the rubber cement off of it. But I kind of like how it looks. Kind of looks distressed and used, so I'm keeping it that way. So the next part would be to let this dry. See if I need to add another coat of leather dye, and then stitch it all back together, and then do the final part here, and then add the latch. Alrighty, so we are stitching the case. I've already done one side right now, and I'm just going to show you how I do it. So first you're going to need some sort of lace. I'm using sinew. It comes in a nice thick roll like this. This is waxed. I don't really like it. It makes my fingers sticky, but it's the only thing I can use. So you want to, I'm starting at the top because I'm going to do it down, then go all the way back up, and I'll end back up here. So I'm going to pull this at the first little notches right up there, you can see right there, and I'm just going to pull the strings till they're even. And I like to do this at first just to, you know, give it some tightness and some firmities so it doesn't kind of come apart while I'm stitching it. It's just do that like in the beginnings of tying a shoe, just, you know, over and under and pull it tight, and I'll keep it tight enough. Now you want your needle. It doesn't really matter. I'm using like quilting needles just because they're big enough. So what you're going to do is you're going to go through one side and you're going to do a cross stitch. So I'm taking this side and I'm bringing it across like so, and then you just pull it through from the back side. Pull it tight. Now you can use 2 needles. I'm just using one because, well, just because. But you can use 2 needles, it might make things easier. So you keep doing it to the other side with the other string. You're crossing it in front of each other to make X's. So I'm going to take the right lace, cross it to the left inside the needle here, and just pull the needle through like that. And now I'll be out on the outside. Do the same thing with the left one, and you're going to alternate going into that other side. So now they're on the outside. So you're just going to do that, and it's going to make kind of this X format right here, and you can see on the side that I already did, it makes an S, an X. So you're just going to do that. You're going to cross the right in front to the left in front to the right, making sure that the left lace here goes over to the right and the right to the left, and you're going to do that. And then when the strings are on the insides, you just do the same thing going into the next hole, and you just work all the way down to the end here. And then once you're at the end, I work all the way back up, because if you don't, the stitching's just going to look like that, which if that's the look you want, that's fine. I prefer making it look all the way complete like that. It's just my preference, but it's up to you. And that's what you do. And then when it gets to the top here, what I did is I just did one lace over and under the other, pull it tight, put a dab of super glue right there, and then did an over and under as well and tied it tight, and then I'll keep it nice and tight, and then I just clipped off the excess. And that is how you make the leather case. Well guys, this is my vlog, my tutorial video. Sorry it's not that great. I'm not really good at tutorial videos, so I hope it was helpful. But I'm sorry if it wasn't that good. I'll get better at it. This is my first one. So if you have any suggestions on how to improve the video quality, leave them in the comment. If you're a professional leather crafter, or if you've done this more, and you have advice for me, I would love advice. I'm always wanting to listen to people who do this more than I do. But yeah, leave any suggestions, comments in the comment section below, and I hope you guys enjoy.